There are a lot of people responsible for bringing freight through the doors at bulk transit. There are relationships to build, rates to negotiate, customers to call, opportunities to chase, equipment to position. Operations have to make it work. The terminals have to make it work. Somewhere along the line, somebody actually has to convince a customer that when they give bulk transit their business, bulk transit's going to deliver. But here's the thing. Eventually, every promise made in an office lands in the hands of one person, and that's the driver. And according to today's guest, that might make you one of the most important salespeople the company has. Account manager Phil Spring told me that a driver's performance doesn't just help keep a customer, it can actually help bulk grow that customer. More freight, more opportunities, stronger relationships. Because when you roll through that customer's gate, you're not just delivering a load. You're delivering on every promise Phil and the rest of the company has made to get that load on your truck in the first place. And Phil knows what the alternative looks like. Before coming to bulk, he worked in LTL sales for a company where he'd walk out of a sales appointment, get back to his car, and have 12 fires waiting for him. A dozen fires sounds like the state of Oregon during wildfire season. But at bulk, the drivers are so good at what they do that Phil says instead of spending his days putting out customer service fires, he actually has time to find more business. And if you're behind the wheel for bulk, you're going to want to hear what this guy has to say about you. Because by the end of the conversation, Phil isn't talking like an account manager trying to sell a company. He's talking like a guy who's damn proud to be part of this one. He talks about why he isn't in a hurry to retire, why customer service can directly affect the freight coming through the door, and why driver pay is on his mind when he's putting his rates together. And why after nearly 20 years in logistics, he believes bulk's drivers are some of the best he's ever seen. So today, we're pulling back the curtain on the sales side of bulk transit and showing you why the guy holding the steering wheel might have a hell of a lot more influence over the future of this company than he realizes. Account manager Phil Spring joins us in just a few. This is Always Pneumatic, Never Static. Let's roll.
You are listening to Always Pneumatic, Never Static, the totally pressurized podcast brought to you by Bulk Transit, where we keep the lines clear, the tanks empty, and the conversation anything but dry. Whether you're running powder, pellets, or anything in between, pull up a seat, crack the windows, and let's hit it.
How's it going out there, Bulk and Spur? Welcome in to Always Pneumatic, Never Static, the podcast where we talk about all things Bulk and Spur. Very happy to have you be a part of the program today. And you might be thinking out there like, hey, I just clicked download or I just clicked play. How am I a part of the episode? Well, you're the reason we're here doing it. I'll tell you that much. And it's very important to us. Everybody that stops by each week and clicks download or just clicks play, listens to the episodes, that's what we're here for, right? That's why we do this whole thing. And Phil Spring, account manager for Bulk and Spur, is going to join us here in just a few minutes. And he's going to talk a little bit about things from the same lens. Maybe drivers might not realize how much they actually can do for a guy that sits in the account manager position at this company. So awesome conversation we've got coming up. I want you guys to do me a favor, though, real quick before we bring Phil in here and start to get into the meat of this episode. Have you told a friend about Always Pneumatic, Never Static yet? Have you been hanging out at a truck stop or maybe a rest area? Maybe you're on the yard at one of the terminals. You know, one thing people don't understand about podcasts is that we actually operate more with word of mouth than you'd ever think. You'd think, hey, we're probably advertising this thing. Maybe we got a billboard. Maybe we're putting up some flyers. Look, all of that stuff comes into it. We're out there on the social medias. We're on every platform that we can be on where you listen to your podcast. That's all part of it. But really what we're looking for here is to build a community of Bulk and Spur drivers. And I know that you guys are really big about helping each other out. I've heard so many times on this podcast, hey, if they need help in Fairborn, I'll get out there and help them. If they need help in Plain City, we'll go help them. Maybe we got to borrow a couple drivers and send them down to Sherman, Texas. All good. Let's party. That's the type of personality that this fleet sort of has. You guys are really big about helping each other out, making sure that all the new crop of drivers are trained up and ready to go before they ever hit the road. And all I'm asking is just to be sort of an ancillary part of that. If you enjoy this podcast, if you've ever gotten something out of this podcast, the next time you're helping out a fellow bulk or spur driver, the next time you see one in your travels out there on the road, maybe at a customer, maybe at a truck stop, like I said, ask them if they've listened to Always Pneumatic, Never Static yet. If they say no, this is where you come in. This is where you're the superhero in this movie. All you got to do is tell them that, hey, it's real easy to check out. And all you got to do is go to podcast.bulktransit.com. All the episodes are right there. In fact, you can even email me, the host, by going to that website. There's a button there for it. It's real simple. It's real user-friendly. The reason I want you to ask is because we're always looking for more drivers at Bulk and Spur to not only listen to the show, but to come and take part in it. And that's why one of the first things I tell you about when I direct you to the webpage, podcast.bulktransit.com, once again, just for repetition's sake, I tell you first and foremost about that button where you can send me an email, because we've had drivers reach out, suggest something to talk about on the show, and lickety-split, we turn that thing into an episode. I've had drivers reach out that just say, hey, I don't really have anything specific, but I'd love to come on the show if you ever have an opening. You know we're going to make that happen. All right, so tell a friend for us. That's your homework assignment today. Just tell another bulk driver about this podcast. Ask them if they've listened to it. If they haven't, tell them about the website. Tell them about the things we're talking about. And maybe share with them what it was that you got out of the podcast. Because that's sort of, I see that as sort of like part of the knowledge that you guys can share amongst one another as drivers. You know, there's a lot of experience, a lot of learning the road, a lot of learning the trailer, the loads, all of that different thing. All of those different things, excuse me. But I kind of look at it as like, hey, maybe one thing got said on this show that really moved the needle for you. If that happened and you tell a friend, we're going to grow this community like you can't imagine. That's exactly why we're doing it. We want all you guys listening if you can or if you want to, and we definitely want as many of you to take part in this as we can get on the air. Now, I can take a lot of drivers on the air at one point in time. I think the max that I've had in my career doing this is 6 drivers on the air at the same time. I'm happy to do it. You guys want to have a little party line episode? You want to just, get in here and kick the tires a little bit? That's fine with me. Head on over to podcast.bulktransit.com. Send me a message. Tell a friend. Keep clicking listen on those episodes. That's making it happen for us. We really appreciate every single one of you jumping in and listening with us each week. It means the world to all of us over here. And I want to take a special moment real quick to shout out the fact that I am merely the voice of this team. And when I say team, there's a lot of them, all right? We got Jessica in as our producer. She handles so much behind the scenes, like every good producer does. Jessica's phenomenal at this job, and without her, you would hear me babbling incoherently on this podcast every single week. Hats off to her. You want to know how sometimes I sound a little bit discombobulated and how sometimes I'll give you a little of the trip over the tongue fun stuff? No, you don't hear that? Oh, that's because we have an absolute audio ninja behind the scenes named Mike. And every time I do you don't hear it because Mike slices it out of there. He is a pro to the nth degree. And let me tell you, this podcast does not sound as crisp and beautiful as it does without Mike putting his hands on it. Hats off to Mike. You've seen all the art that we put out on all the socials. We got multiple people behind that, but I want to give a quick tip of the cap to Ari and Lurie for those. They took like 700 pictures of me one day in a studio on kind of a green screen so that they could put me in any situation that you can imagine. And some of the artwork that these people have the ability to do, I saw myself on a skateboard the other day. I haven't skateboarded since I was 15 years old. And let me tell you, it was a hard fall and it was the end of my skateboarding career. But I just saw 41-year-old me on a skateboard, and it brought back some real nostalgic memories, made me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. The artwork that goes into this, not only just the social media advertising, but the logo, all of it. Hats off to that squad. And oh yeah, remember that website we talked about? That's my guy, Tyler. Podcast.bulktransit.com. He is an absolute dynamo when it comes to building web pages, coding, everything. I mean, I can't even really put into words what the guy does because I'm so dumb when it comes to that aspect of what goes on here at Always Pneumatic, Never Static. I say this to you guys because you're always telling me how great the team at Bulk is, how you love the people, how you love the family environment. And I'm fortunate enough to have a team like that here, and we don't get to talk about them very much. So I'm always going to carve out a little time whenever I've got a couple extra minutes to shout out the team here at Always Pneumatic, Never Static. If it wasn't for them, this podcast would not be something that you click on every single week. I am not the guy. I'm just the mouthpiece. And, that's what I was put on this planet to do. You'll hear Phil say it a little bit later on. I got the gift of gab, and I don't know if it's always a gift, but what I'll tell you is if you put a great team of people like I have behind a guy like me who never shuts up, you can make a podcast, and you can do it about a really good company like Bulk and get tons of people in to tell you how great of a company it is, why they like working for it, and what it is that makes them tick. And that's what today's episode is going to bring you. We're doing an employee spotlight on account manager Phil Spring. I had a great meeting with Phil when I was in Plain City doing our discovery, learning as much about the company as we could. And I knew from sitting in that room with him, just the few minutes that we got to spend, we got to get him on the show. And it's been a while, all right? I didn't get him on here as quick as I thought I would, but I know that he's a friend of the show. He's more than happy to come on here and join us. He's joining us today on very short notice, and we can't thank him enough for it. And also, just a little teaser here. Phil and I are going to talk a little bit of football today because it's mid-August. That means football's right around the corner, and I know there's a lot of football fans out there listening to this right now. So we'll wet that whistle just a little bit later on in the interview. But for now, let's bring in account manager Phil Spring and learn about what the role entails and how drivers can affect it. Welcome back into Always Pneumatic, Never Static. Very excited for my guest joining me right now here on the show. And we've got account manager Phil Spring in studio. And Phil, welcome to the show. So happy to have you. We had a great meeting with you when we were back there in Columbus or in Plain City. And very excited to finally get you on the show here. It's been a long time coming, my friend.
Yep. Appreciate you having me. And, look forward to sharing what everybody else has been sharing, good things about Bulk Transit.
Absolutely, man. Well, we're so happy to have you. Why don't you tell me a little bit of the Phil Spring story? How did you get into this business, and how did you end up at Bulk?
Well, for me, it's a long story. I'm an old guy. I graduated from Ohio State back in 1988. So, my family and my dad, we were all in, my dad was in sales. He worked for General Foods selling coffee for Maxwell House. So, that kind of runs in our family. I kind of watched what he was doing growing up and kind of knew that was kind of what I wanted to do. I said, this looks pretty cool. You work a little bit in your office, you go see customers, you do some other work, you've got freedom and flexibility. And I said, well, this looks pretty good for me. And my brother's also in sales. So, I started off, down in Dallas, Texas, my first career, and eventually moved back to Columbus. And got back, I sold carpet originally, so I've sold a lot of different products throughout my career. But I landed in logistics. Gosh, it's probably been close to 20 years now in logistics. So I work for a courier company. So that would be selling, hot shot services, same day kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And from there, I ended up selling LTL for about 5 or 6 years. And I always had my resume out there on Indeed, and sort of things kind of worked out to where I ended up getting an interview here with Bulk Transit, and once I met the family and came here for the interview, I knew, I wanted to make this change, to a smaller family company like this. So.
Man, it seems like that's where everybody's story kind of starts with Bulk, is they get in the interview, and they realize who's running the company and how things run. And it's pretty much no looking back from there, Phil. It sounds like that was very similar to your situation.
Yeah, when you learn that the previous person in your position, had been there for 35 years, and you're replacing somebody that's been there for 35 years, it must not have been too bad
Yeah,
for them to have
absolutely.
made it that long. And you knew you were going to learn a lot from somebody that's been there. And Mike Cooper was my predecessor, and he taught me a lot and stuck around for, gosh, my first few weeks, and worked with me and introduced me to customers. And he's still kind of a legend, especially with the folks down in West Virginia on the cement side of things. So I knew I had big shoes to fill, but I was pretty confident once I'd get going that I'd do fine. So
Sure. Now, did Mike walk into the sunset of retirement after he left the job at Bulk?
he did. I think it was a little bit of a struggle, even though I think he was in his 70s, early 70s. So he kept going. And I mean, interestingly enough, I'm 62 now, and probably if I was doing what I was doing before I came here, I'd probably just be grinding my head, wanting to get out. But now I can kind of look forward to doing this as long as I feel good, and I'm not like in a big hurry to retire. I like what I do, and it's the right fit, and so I can keep going, I guess. Hopefully not as long, maybe not quite as long as he did,
As
but
Mike did, sure.
who knows? You know what I mean? So
Well, that's awesome, man. I love that when somebody tells me that they finally found a gig where they're not grinding their teeth down to nubs, and they like coming into work and they like who they work for. And man, I'll tell you, we get that a lot on this podcast. And another thing that we get is we've actually heard from people that retired from Bulk in their retirement, during their retirement, and always have good things to say. And I'm happy that you found this spot with Bulk, and glad that you enjoy what you're doing every single day, because if you don't enjoy it as an account manager, it probably becomes pretty hard to do the job that you do. And I want you to walk us through that a little bit, Phil. What does the account manager position entail day to day? I know you already kind of mentioned you're on the phone a little bit, you're out seeing customers. How much of that applies to what we're doing every day here in your current role at Bulk?
well, because our customers are fairly widespread, my mix of face-to-face visits, it's not all that often, but a few times a month or whatever, just depending on where I go. But it's not like I'm out making sales calls face to face, around Columbus, Ohio, and so forth. So a lot of what I do is on the computer through emails. I mean, we live in that world, especially since COVID, and I started here in 2019. So going through that transition, you notice the difference in that. But in any event, I mean, I guess for me, I'm involved in pretty much all aspects of what we do here. So that's kind of one of the things I like about it. I manage all the accounts, but some of Brian's, big guys, his babies, I would call it. But he has about 5 or 6 of those, and the rest of them, I'm responsible for, interactions when they reach out to me for anything that they need. Obviously, I do a lot of rate quoting for people, whether it's for new business or just, existing customers wanting a bunch of rates for next year. I get involved in some large bids from time to time. So a lot of quoting and email interaction, but I also work, a lot with the billing department, especially early in the week. So, there's all the rates obviously go through me, because if it's a new rate and they don't have it, I have to save it. So I have to keep track of every customer and all the quotes that I give them in their individual folders. And, if they end up using us for those shipments, then billing reaches out and says, "Hey, I need this rate." So, so I do a lot of interaction there, and obviously working closely with Sean, our operations manager, on opportunities, and also our terminal managers, each one of them, depending on, what the opportunity is, whether or not it's going to be the right fit for us, and how we go about approaching, equipment and drivers and so forth. So obviously, a couple times a year, towards getting towards the fall, I'll start working on rate increases for 2026. So that's obviously a very big thing. We have to try to get, rate increases so we can pay our drivers more, and plus just the company. I mean, with inflation and everything. And fortunately, our service is excellent. So that certainly makes it a lot smoother when you're asking customers for their rate increases. So that
Yeah.
keeps me pretty busy in addition to my day-to-day activities and going out on customer visits, especially in the fall. Summer, I get a little bit of I guess I would say a little bit of a slowdown,
Yeah.
so to speak, which is kind of nice, 4th of July, that time of year. Early in the year, in January and February, everybody's coming with new opportunities, and it was like that this year as well. So there was just a lot of activity, a lot of action, and once we got that business established going into it, then we get filled up with capacity. And if business is good, it's sort of hard sometimes to add a lot of new stuff during the
Sure.
certain times of year. So we just kind of got to, check it out before we make a commitment for something. We want to make sure that we're going to service it. So
Sure.
and then also we have our cement customers at the end of March. That's when their rates expire. So in January and February, I'm a little bit busier working on rate increases for those customers that go into effect early April. So,
Copy. Man, it sounds like you got to be organized to do what you do. That's you got a lot of spinning plates there, Phil.
well, it's always been one of my strengths, is being organized and following up and not letting things sit around. You know, I kind of got to stay on top of things. It's just part of the way I'm wired. So the job kind of fits naturally for me. I can do it pretty efficiently. But yes, staying organized is a big part of making my job easier to do day to day. So I'm not, pulling my hair out like you said. So
Sure. And I wonder, Phil, how much different is it what you're selling here than when you were selling more traditional products? You mentioned selling carpet for a little while. Your dad sold for Maxwell House Coffee, which, by the way, great reference. I haven't seen a Maxwell House commercial in so long, and I remember them from my childhood. Always, the rising sun and the lighting in those commercials. I remember it like it was yesterday, but
good to the last drop. Remember
good to
that
the
one?
last drop. There you go. It seems to me, and you can, I want your comments here, but more than just selling a traditional product, you're selling reliability and execution that Bulk can offer its customers. How different is it that you're not selling limestone, you're not selling concrete, you're more selling, a logistical operation that goes around those things? Did that challenge you at all when you first got into it?
Well, I guess I don't feel like I'm selling in the same way that I sold products and knocked on doors and going and hunting after business and everything. Because of Bulk, our reputation, and the fact that it's kind of a niche-y, there's not that many good bulk carriers like us in the Midwest. I know they're out there, but I mean, I know how much better we are.
Right.
And I know the size, that we are, and I know that the customer base that we have, is going to lead. Most of the business kind of comes to me or
Yeah.
to us. I mean, whether they hear about us or they just know who we are, they've dealt with us in the past. We've been around since 72 or whatever. I mean, it just kind of comes in, and then you just kind of filter it from there to see how it fits. So I think there's more people that need what we do than we're able to provide, to be honest with you.
Sure.
So does
That's a
that make
great problem to
sense?
have. Yeah, it's a great problem to
Supply
have
and
as a
demand. I
salesman.
mean, with people to haul bulk. I mean, LTL. I'm sure there's like 5 different LTL reps knocking on the same doors out here, like what I was doing before. So
Right.
it was much more of a follow up, persistency, knock on doors, try to get appointments, people telling you no all the time, that kind of thing. So when I mentioned that, this is, something that I can continue to do at the age that I'm at, not that I wasn't good at and enjoyed some aspects of the hunting and that part of sales in the past. I just think the transition to where it's at now is perfect. So
Sure. I've only worked with one LTL company in my career making podcasts for truck drivers, and it was a couple of years ago. But the guy in your position at that company, I believe the way that he described it to me in a meeting was LTL sales is a bit of a rock fight. What are your comments on that? Does that sound like your experience?
well, especially if you consider the company, we had some of the worst service in the LTL industry. So imagine, you're working hard to go out and make, close some business and get business on board. And then, your service is just constantly screwing it up and ruining it for you. So, I mean, yeah, it was enough of a rock fight to fight the competition. And then a further rock fight, to try to keep the business because of how, poorly we were operationally, to be honest with you. So this is without a doubt one of the best company I've probably sold for from a product standpoint. And I've sold good products before, but from in the service industry, it's we do a great job, and that just makes your life easier.
Absolutely.
Doing
I
what you
can
do.
totally see that. I wonder, that's a really great transition, Phil, because I was going to ask you about this, but first and foremost, let's give a shout out to operations, Sean, all the terminal managers.
Absolutely.
You get these guys on this podcast and you start to see the dedication that they have to their side of things. And I want to give them their flowers, but really what I want to hone in here a little bit on, Phil, is the driver's impact on what you do. Because what you said right there, you can go through the entire sales process, close a customer, have a good relationship, and then 5 minutes interacting with a driver at one point in time on one bad day can really throw a wrench into the spokes, can it?
Absolutely, and we're not without fault there. I mean, we have those situations. Don't get me wrong. We're not you know what I mean. Things do happen operationally, but with the frequency with what they happen is, pretty low for the amount of volume that we do. So I think people view us as having excellent service, but just how they interact with the customers, they're the ones, like you said, I know we've talked about this on the front lines, and, they're the ones who do everything else that we all do to get the business there, then is on their shoulders, so to speak.
Right.
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 To actually pick it up and do the physical part of it and do the deliveries. I mean, it's huge, and that's why you can sense the pride when you talk to them, and the ones that are really good at it. They're gonna probably make the most money. They're gonna have the fewest driving errors. Any company, when you're in the truck driving industry, though, you're gonna have good ones, but they get weeded out, the bad ones. So
Sure. It's a high turnover industry. That's always going to happen if you're not pulling your weight, right?
it is, and I mean, kudos to Rachel, for doing the recruiting. I mean, it's just a huge, she's been a huge asset as well, because, like you said, I mean, just trying to keep the flow of good quality candidates coming in. If you were to ask me, what I like best at working for Bulk, and that may be on your list. I mean, obviously, it's the people, and you've had this answer from other people that you've done podcasts here with. But I think about our team, like you said, Sean. I mean, and you talked about selling. I mean, well, everybody sell. It's a group effort. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's not like I just go and sell something. I mean, everybody's involved in the process. The terminal managers and many times can actually, they're in a market where I can't be there all the time, and
Right.
they know the customers in that area, and so they'll get leads from or people call in there, or just their relationships in that market will get business leads flowing up to me as well. So, a lot of times that's how it works, and then obviously getting, Sean involved he likes to go visit customers with me. So, I think about LTL, sales and operations, a lot of times would clash with each other.
A little
You know
bit
what
of
I
button
mean?
heads
That
there,
happens,
yeah.
especially in a lot of larger companies that are in the service industry.
Right.
But here it's just, we work together. It's like we're selling it together.
Sure. I mean, I hear that. You said it. I hear it so much on this podcast. That's the one thing that everybody comes back to when I do ask them what their favorite part of working at Bulk is. And you're right, man. It was on my list, but you've obviously listened to this, so you kind of know where I'm headed from time to time. And I love that. Take the words out of my mouth because, it's you know where I'm going with it. But obviously, there's something that we're trying to get to here, and you kind of keep checking these boxes for me. There's one more that I want you to check for me real quick.
Yeah.
Would you agree with the statement that every bulk driver is part of the sales department in one way or the other, with the way that they have to carry the customer service? They have to make sure that they're being professional, showing up on time, doing a great job with a smile on their face, regardless of how hard the day's been. All that's part of customer relations, and the bulk drivers really seem to take it seriously. Phil, do you kind of look at them all as having a role in the sales department?
100%. I mean, theirs might be the biggest role, especially with keeping the business that's there. Obviously, I mean, if we've got business and we're constantly failing, and the drivers are failing, I mean, that business is gone. So obviously, what they do from the very first delivery on a brand new, account or brand, I mean, it's important. I mean, building those relationships, they're going to build relationships at the level that's going to allow us to grow with that customer. So sometimes you may not start off with a lot of business, but that driver and their performance can also help us get more business from those customers just by how they perform. So no question about it. I mean, if I guess I think about, Amazon, how successful would they be if they had a bunch of idiots throwing packages around, delivering packages, how they do. I mean, they
Yep.
do a great job, right? I mean, even though it's
They
probably
do.
not,
And,
so
and
they're the
they
ones
weed
that
out
are,
their idiots too with all that, ring camera footage these days. Like, it doesn't take long to
Right.
figure out that somebody kicked a package onto your porch, and I think those people go the way of the buffalo very quickly because they've got to keep that standard as high as they can, and you operate with a similar standard. There's not a lot of room for slippage here. You guys need these customers, and so you need the drivers to really deliver, not only literally, but figuratively, right, Phil?
Yep. And I guarantee it's not easy for them,
Right.
because sometimes how they kind of get treated and how things are at certain delivery locations, it's like you said, and they're tired at the end of the day. They've got to get out of their trucks. They got to be careful not to spill product. They're hooking up the hoses and all the things that they do. I think about when I first started, I remember going out and looking at these trucks, and I didn't understand. I don't even how it goes in or out or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm thinking,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
I guess they learn all that. So, which they do, but, there still seems to be a lot to it. It's not like, bumping a dock,
Yep.
and opening your trailer. They have a lot more involvement with the customers, I think, at the locations because of how, hands-on it is. So,
Sure, absolutely. I wonder, I like to give people an opportunity to talk about points of pride from time to time, and I don't always straight up throw it out there like that, but this one, it's kind of important to set the frame for this next question, Phil. Have you ever had a time when a customer reached out to you to compliment a driver, like personally, like say, hey, Mike did a great job here today, and I just want you to know that? And if that's happened, how does it make you feel as the account manager when you do hear that kind of feedback?
yes, that does happen. I probably happen more times with one particular customer than another one. That would be our Fairborn Cement, which Rob and those guys out there. because we do a lot of business with them, and those guys have to deliver to road jobs, out where construction's going on, and unique kind of deliveries. But yeah, I've had quite a few instances where I've either gotten emails or phone calls or whatever, chatting up a driver, for what they did, something special, and we share that internally because it's a point of pride with everybody all the way up, obviously. So yeah, it's fantastic to hear those. I believe that people probably feel that way more than they actually send those emails out. I mean, but when you actually get somebody taking the extra step to do that, they really went above and beyond.
Yeah. And if anybody's out there listening right now, I will say it really helps. Brian gave me a compliment on something that we did on the podcast, a few months back. I don't even remember specifically what it was, but he just pointed out something real specific, and he said, "Hey, good job." And Phil, I thrived on that for like a month and a half. I mean, it really is amazing the way that just a small compliment for something that somebody does every single day of their lives can really build them up and lift them up and make them feel important. And so I'll just say real quick, if you're out there listening and somebody does a great job, don't hesitate. Send that email, make that phone call. It means a lot. And I think it really gives us an opportunity to not only go ahead and thrive off the compliment, but get better in other areas too. Like, hey, he complimented how I looked and how I, carried myself, and now I feel like I've got that down. I want to make sure that I'm Johnny on the spot when it comes to unloading the load or leaving enough following distance, any number of different things. But what an awesome deal to be able to hear from a customer like that and be able to pass that compliment down to the driver. Can great driver performance like that actually win more freight for Bulk and Spur, Phil?
I would say that it's likely that it could, yes. Like I said, whether or not it's, keeping the business that we have and ensuring that, which is also important. But if a new opportunity comes and you're dealing with a customer that's had those experiences, with our drivers and any of our people, who are they going to come to first and want to give that extra business to? It's going to be us. So
sure. Absolutely. I want to talk just a little bit more about the driver's relation to the sales aspect and the customer service aspect of what we're doing here, because obviously we got a lot of drivers listening to this, Phil, and this one, you don't have to, point anybody out in specific. We don't want to, we're not here to dress anybody down today, but I got a two-part question for you. What can a driver do in 5 minutes in any given day that makes your job easier or really helps you with what you're doing, Phil? Is there anything that you can think of like that you can walk me through?
Well, it's interesting question because I get so wrapped up in the emails and things I'm doing. I probably need to stop and think a little bit more about that, what they could do. So that's a good question. I guess for me, it would be, to arrive on time, obviously, show up when you're kind of within, reason. I mean, things happen out there.
Yep.
Be courteous, don't talk too much, but it's okay to be friendly, but kind of stick to focusing on the quality of the delivery you're making. Mm-hmm. And the little details of that, and then interact a little bit with people, but not too much. I mean, I guess I've experienced times when drivers, and other jobs I've had, they just had too much talking and personality, I guess. So there's a little bit of a fine line there, I think, when they make a delivery.
There really is, and let me tell you,
just keeping that in mind, what you say to customers and how you say it, and be polite and say thank you on the way out, and keep everything pretty clean there at the delivery location. I guess
that's it. Yeah. Look, I'm sorry I stepped on you there a little
Oh
bit,
no,
but
that's okay. I mean, that was a good thing for me to think about. So, I guess I could just say, yeah, go there, show up on time, and make the delivery and leave. I mean, but no, there's little nuances that make it are probably going to make a difference there in the relationship with that customer. So.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, and what I was going to say is I think that you pinpointed there the reason that I would ultimately wash out of trucking, and especially for bulk and hauling pneumatics, if I was able to get my CDL and if I was ever able to master these trailers, which I don't think there's a snowball's chance for that, Phil, but if I did, my mouth would be the thing that got me in trouble because it would be the thing that kept me from being on time for the next delivery because I'm a chatty Cathy, man. It's just the way it goes. And you're right. There is a very fine line there. You can be professional, you can be friendly, you can be courteous, but still be 100% focused on the task at hand. And that's what bulk really needs to provide the top-notch customer service, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say, like you said, you get to know the people at each delivery if you're a driver, obviously, and you know the amount your personality interactions can be with them. So, just, understanding that when you go to each delivery and, making sure that the delivery goes off well, you do those two things. I think it's going to be great for bulk and great for you and the customer, which is obviously the ones paying our bills. So without them, that's
Things
it.
get tough.
Yep.
Things get tough without them. Now, conversely, I told you it was a two-parter. Is there anything that a driver can do in 5 minutes out there on a delivery, Phil, that makes your job a lot harder? I asked this part of the question because, again, I know I've talked to enough bulk drivers out there to know that none of them are happy with where they are. They're always wanting to get better. They're always striving to be better at this job. And that's kind of where the question comes from. Is there anything out there that might go on, in 5 short minutes that'll really leave you kind of with your head in your hands a little bit and trying to figure out a problem or an issue? Anything like that come to mind?
Well, the only thing that really comes to mind, because, it happens, people have bad days, or whatever, but sort of, when you hear from a customer that a driver, came off as rude, or he was obviously having a bad day and, may have said some things, or it's usually, if I hear something, it's related to something like that. Obviously, if something got spilled all over, or, things happen, you know what I mean? But those kind of things, because they do happen once in a while, customers can understand a little mistake or something like that. But when you're getting feedback about somebody's behavior at the delivery site and some type of interaction with one of their people that didn't go well, I guess that would be the biggest thing that could go wrong, in my opinion.
Sure. Well, and that's the reason I ask it is, again, I know the drivers are always wanting to be, better at the job. And it's not because I think that this type of thing goes on a lot out there. It's like you said, things happen. Sometimes people have bad days, and it just, I feel like getting the examples out there to the drivers that are listening is something that everybody can learn a little bit from. And I appreciate that because it's not always easy to answer the questions about when things go wrong. And I understand that. You guys always do such a great job because I ask every single one of you what happens when things go wrong. And every one of you guys doesn't panic is what I find. And I think that that's a big part of it. You've got a team here at Bulk that supports you. And that goes beyond just your dispatcher. That goes to Tim at safety. That goes to Sean at operations. Obviously, Brad, Brian, and Andrea in ownership. They've all said right here on this podcast, pick up the phone and call me if you need to. And I think that's just something I always want to showcase is, hey, we have to be in the understanding that we're all human here and things might go wrong. People might have bad days. I like to say everybody's fighting a battle that we know nothing about. So, it's just I feel like it's good to get that stuff out there, Phil. And
Yep.
sometimes I think that we spend too much time focusing on the bad, and we don't do that here at Bulk. We get to spend a lot of time focusing on the good. So let me see here. I've got a few fun things that I want to talk to you about, especially given that you told me where your alma mater is. And I'm going to get to that here in a minute, because you know that I'm over here on the West Coast, but I'm also a Big Ten boy. So we'll talk a little bit about that here at the end. But before we get to that, is there anything else about the account manager position or about the company as a whole that we've kind of left on the table here, Phil, that you want to mention before? Because obviously, you know, we're sitting here, almost 30 episodes in, and this is your first appearance on the podcast. I want to give you time to have the floor. Is there anything on your mind that you want to talk to the listening audience of drivers about what you do at Bulk that I've left here on the table?
Well, I guess I would... another big part of what I do when I mention rates and things like that, one thing we're always considering when I'm putting rates on things is, you know, how much a driver's going to make. So just so you guys all know that out there, I mean, I don't get too many complaints, you know, and usually if somebody isn't making what they feel like they should be making on a particular lane or something, they will, you know, go to their terminal managers, and we want that feedback, you know, and I need that feedback, you know. That doesn't mean I want like 250 emails, you know, about this coming up, just so you guys know, because I know what they're going to do now. But I think that, you know, I think that we at Bulk and myself, you know, we do a good job at keeping that in mind. You have to look at that because, you know, if they're not getting paid, you know, what they need to get paid to keep happy, you know, doing that particular segment of business, you know, you have to look at each opportunity that way. So that's another facet of it.
Yeah.
Because the customer's not going to have the kind of service they want. The driver's not going to be happy. He's going to go to work in a bad mood, like we talked about. You know, I'm not getting paid enough for this or whatever. You know, but the other thing I'll say about Brian, you know, when it comes to those type of things, because there are situations where a rate may not have gotten in place that was where it needed to be. You know, I can work directly with Brian and we'll talk about it, or the terminal managers will talk to Brian, and Brian will take a look at it, and, you know, he'll adjust, you know, the pay. It might take a little bit out of his pocket on that particular thing, but, you know, we try to make sure that, you know, you drivers are getting paid fairly and paid well. I mean, we want you to, you know, not be, you know, unhappy, you know, out there running these lanes. So I guess that's a big aspect, because that all works together towards the common goal.
Absolutely.
That we talked about. So
absolutely. And you talk about driver pay on this podcast, ears perk up, Phil. I will tell you that much right now.
I'm in for it now. I mean,
hey, if I can give, as your humble podcast host, do me a favor. Don't open the floodgates on Phil here in the email. You know, give the guy a little bit of break here. He was nice enough to talk about that here on the episode. We don't want to kill him in the aftermath. But I know that's so important for the drivers to hear, and it's so few and far between, Phil, that it fleets the size of Bulk and Spur. You know, drivers are welcome to share that feedback. Sometimes there's a little bit of a disconnect between, you know, sales and the driver. And I think it's really cool that Bulk's just willing to, hey, take a look at that and see, because keeping the drivers happy and making sure that they've got good jobs and they like what they're doing, is such a conduit to them doing it effectively for you.
Yeah, and they do that. I mean, they do, you know, go to our terminal managers, and you know, this is not something that doesn't happen from time to time. I'm just saying that we try to do it up front so that they don't need to do that. You know what I mean? And it doesn't come up a lot, which is, you know, kudos to that. So, but on occasion, you know, something, you know, there's something like that comes up, and we take a look at it. And the other thing I can take a look at is, you know, and, you know, when I get to the point where we are increasing rates with a customer, you know, I usually, you know, reach out to our terminals and, you know, ask them, is there any, you know, particular customer or lane that, you know, is really a negative, or, you know, guys are just constantly it's bad. They're not making what you know what I mean. So, we look at that each year, or each year before rate increases, and I can hit that lane with a little bit more of an increase if it's really not right. So
Sure.
we have to be careful. We got to make sure we're competitive as well. So.
Yeah, it's a competitive market out there, but I love the way that you kind of swing back each year and ask the terminal managers, hey, you got any rocks in your shoe right now? Anything that you can deal with, but also isn't the most, isn't optimal, and that's how we keep these relationships moving into the future. That's how you build a customer into a partner eventually, right? You're constantly working, making sure that everything works for this side, everything works for that side. That's the account manager position, right? That's the fundamental thing you're trying to do.
Yep. And I guess the other thing I would say to our drivers, I don't interact a ton with you guys. I'm here a lot in Plain City. I meet some of you guys when I'm visiting terminals and things like that, but you guys are a lot of times out on the road doing what you do for the company. But as an account manager, I just want to tip my hat to every one of you because, as I mentioned when we very, very first started, your performance and the way you take care of our customers, makes my job easier from day to day. I'm able to do my job without, having a bunch of emails with complaints and problems and things. And, it just frees us up to have time to look for new business and to grow. And so what you guys do is just extremely, extremely probably the most important thing that we do as a company. So, and you do it so well, and I just want to thank you, all you guys out there. So.
That's a great point, Phil. I'm so glad you brought it up. Your day could be just putting out fires with customers all day.
Oh, that's what I used to do. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's all I did. I mean, I'd be trying to sell something, and then I'd get out to my car after that appointment, and I have 12 fires to put out. So, I mean, and by the way, you guys aren't perfect though out there. We do have some fires, so we can do better.
We can always do better. Great point. Great
But in
point.
general, from my experience in logistics, you guys are some of the best out there doing what you do, you guys. So thank you.
Yeah, great stuff there. Glad that you decided to put that in, Phil, and thank you for that because I agree with you. I'm just a fly on the wall in this entire organization, but man, some of the most dedicated and experienced drivers out there, and not only that, but they want to bring the next crop of drivers up to their level if they're working at Bulk, and they want to kind of pass that experience down. It's such a great company, man, such an awesome culture that you guys work within. And I'm just really that just warms my heart that you thank the drivers like that because I know they're out there listening, and I know that touched some of them in a profound way. So I really appreciate that, Phil. And this has been great getting to learn a little bit about the day-to-day, understanding the things that make the job easier and harder for you and how the drivers can affect that directly. I think that this has been a fantastic episode. We'll get to your final thoughts here in just a minute. But let's talk about it, man. It's kind of the dog days of summer here, working into fall. Football camps are started. You are an alumni of the Ohio State University, and I had somebody on this podcast recently say right at the end of our interview, hey, go Bucks. And I could have sworn he said go Ducks, Phil. I guess I wasn't listening close enough. But I cut the mics off right after that because I thought it sounded like go Ducks, man. How excited are you about the upcoming football season? Your Ohio State Buckeyes, number one in the coaches poll coming into the season.
It's not like we're not used to being there. I'm not sure that it's warranted. I guess I don't know who you put ahead of us or whatever, but we got some things to work on. So and I'll tell you what. So I assume you're a duck, and you got the green in the background to match.
Yeah, that's for a green screen in case we need to put something behind me if we ever use this video. The opposite wall is covered in green and yellow, if you want my honest opinion, Phil. I am an alumni, so yeah.
Good. No, they're a good competition, good school. And I'll tell you what, people are very high. I mean, you guys must be excited this year too. I mean, where's your rank?
I think we came in at 2 or 3 somewhere there in the coaches poll, or maybe 4. So, it's
Yeah,
going to be a good year over here.
And
in
I don't
Eugene,
know
too.
if your schedule's as tough as ours. I mean, I'm thinking if we only lose 2 games, I mean, that would be pretty good, with Texas. And then we got, Michigan, Indiana, and I forget who else, Penn State. But anyway.
Now, don't forget to mention us. We're coming to town, too,
in
Phil.
Oregon, yeah. In Oregon.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
It's rough out there in the Big Ten. I don't think if you would have asked me in 100 years if I think the Indiana Hoosiers, from the beginning of last football season to 100 years in the future, will the Indiana Hoosiers ever win a national title, I would have said absolutely not. And here's a $100 bill, a crisp 100 to put on that bet. And here we are, a year later talking about they're the defending national champions. I think in this current landscape, anybody can win it, Phil.
Yeah, it's. You get the right coaching and leadership in place, and then you get the right money in the pockets. I mean,
that's a big part
changed.
Of it.
Things have changed. I mean,
yes, sir.
And honestly, it's changed to where it's just going to make it, tougher for a team to be dominant. I mean, we're used to being, up there. We're always going to be, a tough team and be in the mix. But you're right. I mean, who knows? Anybody could pop up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But the Big Ten's hot right now. Let's keep it going.
Oh, I love it. I love it, man. And here's a promise I'll make you. Come November, before that Oregon-Ohio State game, we're going to get a bunch of you Ohio State fans in here. And you know what? I'll just stand against the wall and let you guys heave them at me, because we're developing a fun rivalry here, Ohio State and Oregon. And what a cool time of year. It's always one of the most exciting times of year for me. I'm starting to think about putting the golf clubs in storage and getting the tailgate stuff ready, because I've been a season ticket holder for 15 years. And you might hear my voice be a little bit hoarse on some of these football season podcasts, Phil. I'll tell you that in advance.
Well, all I can say is, as far as that particular game, good luck. You guys are going to need it. When have you beaten us last?
Well, we beat you last up here, not last year, but the year before. You guys came to Oregon.
Did we play
and
you
then
twice that year?
Yep, you did beat us in the Rose Bowl that year,
Yeah,
so we won one.
We lost during the regular season, yeah.
And won when it counted. The only thing I'll say, though, is back in 2021, we had a non-conference game with you guys at the Shoe, and we actually came out on top of that one, too.
In 2021?
Yep, 2021. Did you happen to go to that one? Do you make it out to many games?
I don't think so. Was that a COVID game?
I don't know. I think there was a crowd. No, there was definitely a crowd there, because I just watched a replay.
That would have been the year after.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We probably had a bunch of guys that were still sick.
That's a true fan right there, Phil. I love it, man. I love it. Well, Phil Spring, account
you guys are
manager,
going to be good this year.
I appreciate it, man. You guys, too. It's going to be a fun season. I can't wait for it. We will do some football-themed content, because I know there's a bunch of drivers out there that not only want to hear it, they want to take part in it. And we've been kind of building towards that all summer long. So just a little sneak preview here of some of the football talk you might hear on the show. Love that you guys are all big fans out there. And the passion I see come from Ohio State fans is something else, man. I mean, you guys, you could have 3 in a bar somewhere, and one guy will say OH. And what are you going to hear from the other side of the bar, Phil?
I-O!
There you go, man. Well, Phil Spring, account manager for Bulk and Spur, you've done phenomenal here today. Can't thank you enough for the time, especially the fact that you joined me on short notice. We give everybody a chance to share their final thoughts with us here, Phil. If there's anything we left on the table, we can go ahead and get to it here. If you have any shout-outs that you want to make, and I will say, we've gotten some kudos on this podcast, because I like to remind drivers it's never a bad idea to shout out the family or the wife or the kids, because you never know when they might hear it. So final thoughts from you today, Phil. Thank you again so much for your time today.
Sure. Appreciate it and enjoyed it. I guess my final thought would just be to, it's a blessing, to be part of the Bulk Transit family and this company. And I just hope that everybody that is part of it looks at it that way. And I think if they do, I think we're going to continue to be successful. And I just want to thank everybody out there, from which I already did the drivers, but our terminal managers, their assistants, our billing department, Rachel, Tim, everybody. I mean, it's such a close-knit team. I compare us to the Buckeyes at that quality. So just keep up the good work, everybody. And like I said, if there's anybody who needs anything from me, just reach out.
Outstanding stuff, Phil Spring. Thank you so much for the time here today. We'll get you back in here soon, okay?
All right, sounds good.
Thank
you, Marcus.
Awesome stuff from Phil Spring there. Can't thank him enough. Again, joining us on short notice and then delivering that interview. It's one thing to join me on short notice and we just get it done and we go through the motions. No, that was an in-depth interview with the guy that loves his job, loves the company he works for, and takes a lot of pride in doing a good job every single day, winning more freight, making more partnerships, building these relationships with the customers because, hey, like Phil said, those are the ones that pay the bills. And what a cool peek behind the curtain we get when Phil was talking about, adjusting rates and looking at driver feedback and, hey, how do these guys feel about the money that they're making on this particular route? Now, do me a favor, guys. We already said this, but do me a favor. Don't blow Phil up right now because he'll never come on this podcast again. And he was a really good guest, so I don't want to do that to him. I want to make it so that Phil will come back here and join us again. But I loved hearing that he's willing to listen to that feedback. That is a unique thing. There are not many account managers, salespeople that I've had on all the podcasts I've done for truck drivers who will call out and say, listen, if you've got feedback for me, I'll listen to it and I will take it under advisement. Typically, and then this goes for other fleets, okay? Because this is the first time I've talked to Phil here, so it's the first time we've gotten to get a feel for what the account manager position at Bulk and Spur is like. But I will tell you that I've talked to quite a few salespeople in my 4 years making podcasts for trucking fleets, and I will tell you that not one of them has said, hey, if you've got feedback for me, I'll listen to it. That's a really important aspect of what we just talked about. And not only that, I feel like Phil really understands the importance of that customer service angle. You drivers showing up there, doing a good job, keeping that smile on, being professional, all the things that go into it. It's very clear that here at Bulk and Spur, you guys know how to do that right. And Phil just putting the period on the end of that sentence with such a great interview there. Again, can't thank him enough. And it really is just another drop in the bucket of amazing guests that we've had on this show. I never know, if I haven't talked to somebody for a long time, what their thoughts are on the show, if they're listening, if they enjoy it, if they think the drivers are getting something out of it. And a lot of times I'm kind of reaching out to these people cold after I haven't talked to them for quite a few months. And in Phil's case, boy, it's been probably 6 or 8 months since he and I have even exchanged so much as an email. And we still got that out of him. That goes to show you right now the team of people that you're working with at Bulk and Spur. And I tell you, every single week that we record an episode, it blows me away just a little bit more. What a phenomenal company. What just a fantastic group of good people. We talked about it a little bit in the intro about how Bulk and Spur drivers help each other out. They don't just help each other out. They'll help out another terminal. They'll help out another terminal manager. You guys are out there. You've got each other's backs. And every time we hear a little bit more in depth about that on this podcast, I'll tell you, I'm going to eat on that. It's just, I'm going to eat on that for days. You guys don't understand how much it affects me and how positive it makes me feel. So again, one more time before we get out of here today, I want to say hats off to Phil Spring for such a great interview. We will definitely be getting him back on the show. And if the end of that conversation was any indication, we're going to get him back on the end in the future to talk a little bit of football. And I can't wait. You know, I'm just over here chomping at the bit, waiting to talk Ducks and Bucks with you guys among the rest of them. I know there's got to be some Michigan fans out there. I know there's probably some Nebraska and Iowa fans. I know that there's probably some SEC football fans working for the company. We got a terminal down in Sherman, Texas. I bet you there's some UT Longhorns fans out there that can't wait to get on this show and bark at me about how the Longhorns are going to run roughshod over the SEC this year. Can't wait. We will be bringing that one to you guys in just a couple of weeks. I think, season's right around the corner, so we got to do it quick. Something to look forward to in the future here, in the very near future on Always Pneumatic, Never Static. Want to say thanks one more time to Phil Spring. Want to say thanks to the amazing team behind this podcast. And since I'm dishing them out here, just want to say thanks to every single one of you that clicked play or download today. You mean the world to me. You'll never know how much you mean. So make sure and keep doing it every single day because you want your host to be happy, right? We talked about sometimes it's a bad day. I don't have any bad days here working for Bulk and doing this show, Always Pneumatic, Never Static. It's always a good day in here. Thank you so much for listening today. Be safe out there, drivers, and we will talk to you next week, Wednesday, 5 a.m. local time, with another awesome hour of content from Always Pneumatic, Never Static. Be safe out there.
And that's all she blows for today's episode of Always Pneumatic, Never Static, your number one and probably only pneumatic trucking podcast, brought to you by Bulk Transit. Thanks for rolling with us today. Till next time, stay safe, keep those lines clear, and keep it pumping.